This is Meet Sean, where we break down real life topics insurance, annuities, real estate, travel planning, and home ownership so you can make smarter moves. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Right now, your house is probably hiding a 1990s brain inside a 2024 body.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pretty massive mismatch when you think about it.
Yeah, like you probably have a smart thermostat learning your schedule, right? Or an electric vehicle charger in the garage, maybe one of those high-efficiency induction stoves.
Right, but the actual hardware managing all that power is, well, it's just this gray metal box bolted to your basement wall.
Exactly, a box built for, an era of tube televisions and incandescent bulbs.
Yeah, and we usually just view our homes through square footage or like aesthetic upgrades. But the electrical system is the central nervous system of the property.
And right now, the baseline energy of our modern lifestyle is just pushing those old nervous systems completely past their physical limits.
They're struggling. They really are.
Which is exactly why we are doing a deep dive today into this really insightful guide by WSV Group Construction, focused entirely on electrical panel upgrades.
It's such an important topic for homeowners right now.
It really is. And our mission today isn't just to hand you a basic checklist of warning signs, though we will definitely cover those.
Right.
We really want to decode the actual physics of why your home's infrastructure might be failing. Look at how modern outlet tech actually prevents fires and give you a playbook for hiring the right contractor.
Because understanding the physical reality of your electrical system is really the ultimate shortcut to keeping your family safe. And as the data shows, saving a lot of money long term.
Yeah, let's actually start there. To understand the failure points, we first have to look at the sheer load we're placing on these systems today.
The load is staggering compared to even 20 years ago.
Seriously. The guide highlights this fascinating shift. So in 2024 alone, over 355,000 homes received HERS ratings.
Right, the home energy rating system.
Yeah. So people are actively trying to make their homes hyper-efficient. But the source drops the staggering counter statistic. About 90% of U.S. homes are under-insulated.
And that 90% figure. That is the silent killer for electrical panels.
Really? Just the insulation?
Yeah, well, think about it. When a home lacks proper insulation, the thermal envelope is completely compromised. You're basically trying to heat or cool a sieve.
Oh, I see.
So because of that leakage, your HVAC compressor isn't just cycling on occasionally. It's forced into this high-duty cycle, running almost constantly to fight the outside temperature.
Which means it's drawing power constantly because, we usually think of electrical strain as that momentary spike when you turn on the vacuum, right?
Exactly, but this is a sustained, heavy amperage draw happening for hours on end. The National Electrical Code actually differentiates between standard loads and what they call continuous loads.
Okay, what counts as a continuous load?
It's anything drawing maximum current for 3 hours or more.
Mm-hmm.
When your HVAC runs continuously, the physical copper bus bars inside your panel actually start to heat up.
Wow.
Now factor in, adding new appliances like an EV charger that pulls 40 to 50 amps for 8 straight hours overnight.
Okay, let's unpack this. It sounds like, putting a modern smartphone processor into a 1990s brick phone.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
The old battery simply wasn't designed for the demands of today's tech.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, energy efficiency isn't just about saving the planet. It's about the fact that a 20-year-old panel physically lacks the capacity for just the baseline energy use of a modern lifestyle.
You're literally baking the internal components of the panel.
Exactly. The system physically cannot dissipate the heat fast enough.
So how do we actually diagnose this stress in our own homes before it becomes a total catastrophe?
Well, the guide lists a few physical warning signs you can look for.
Right. The most common ones being flickering lights and frequent breaker trips.
Yes. If your lights dim the second the AC kicks on, that is a direct visual indicator. It means the system cannot handle concurrent power draws.
But wait, I want to push back on the tripping breakers for a second. Logically, if a breaker trips and kills the power, isn't it just doing its job?
That's what most people think, yeah.
Right. Why is the guide calling a tripped breaker a warning sign rather than a sign that my safety features are working perfectly?
What's fascinating here is the mechanical reality of how a standard breaker works. They're thermomagnetic devices.
Okay.
Inside, there is a bimetallic strip that literally physically bends as it heats up from excess electrical current.
Oh, so it relies on physical movement and heat.
Precisely. When it bends far enough, it triggers a spring mechanism and trips the switch. But like any physical spring subjected to constant thermal stress, it degrades.
Ah, I get it.
Yeah. So if your breaker is tripping every week because you're running the microwave and the toaster at the same time, you're constantly wearing down that internal spring.
Right, so it loses its calibration.
Exactly. Eventually, it might just fail to trip at all when a true critical overload happens.
It's like relying on your car's anti-lock brakes for every single stop sign on your commute.
That is exactly it.
Yes, it's a safety feature, but if you're engaging the absolute last line of defense for daily driving, you are mechanically destroying the system.
And eventually, it won't be there when you actually need it. A tripping breaker is a sign of operational failure, not success.
Wow. Okay, the guide also flags far more severe symptoms too, specifically burning smells and visible physical damage, like corrosion.
Yeah, those are massive red flags.
It makes it very clear that these aren't things you just put on a maintenance schedule for next year. They need immediate action.
Because honestly, by the time you smell burning plastic or ozone near a panel, you are already in the middle of a thermal event.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. The insulation wrapping your wires is actively melting. The only thing standing between that and a house fire is time.
And corrosion. Because we usually just think of rust as an aesthetic thing. Oh, it looks a bit old, whatever.
In electrical systems, moisture and corrosion are incredibly dangerous. They actually alter the physics of the connection.
How so?
Corroded copper or aluminum increases electrical resistance. And according to Ohm's law, when resistance goes up, the current has to work harder to push through, which generates immense heat.
So a corroded panel is basically a slow-motion heater installed directly into your home's framing.
Effectively, yes. Which is why the source draws a hard line in the sand regarding age.
Right, the 20-year rule. If the panel is over 20 years old, it is almost certainly incompatible with modern upgrades.
The code standards have just evolved so dramatically since the early 2000s.
But replacing the main panel only secures the house's overall capacity, right? That still leaves a massive vulnerability at the actual outlet.
Exactly, where you plug things in.
Yeah, where we're plugging in frayed cords or using appliances near water, how do we secure the perimeter?
This is where modern electrical codes focus heavily on GFCI and AFCI outlets. If the main panel is the brain, these outlets are the frontline infantry.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I know we see them everywhere, but let's break down the mechanics. GFCI stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter.
Right. Those are the ones with the little test and reset buttons in your kitchen or bathroom.
But how does it actually know when to kill the power? I mean, it's not just a fancy surge protector, is it?
Not at all. Think of a GFCI as a hyper-vigilant accountant balancing a ledger in real time. It continuously monitors the current going out on the hot wire and compares it to the current returning on the neutral wire.
So under normal circumstances, those two numbers should match exactly.
Exactly. But if there is a discrepancy of even 5 milliamps...
Wait, just 5 milliamps?
Yeah, which is a tiny fraction of a single amp. The GFCI knows that current has leaked somewhere else, usually the ground.
And in a bathroom, that alternative path to ground is very likely water, or worse, you.
Right. And the genius is its speed. It detects that leak and physically breaks the circuit in about a 40th of a second.
A 40th of a second. That is incredible engineering.
It shuts off the power so fast it prevents a potentially lethal shock.
Now, the other one the guide emphasizes is AFCI, the arc fault circuit interrupter. These are for living rooms and bedrooms, mostly.
Yes, and they're looking for something completely different.
Right, an arc fault happens when electricity jumps across a gap, like a damaged wire or a loose connection in the wall, right?
Exactly. When electricity arcs, it ionizes the air and burns at thousands of degrees. It can easily ignite the surrounding drywall.
But a standard breaker wouldn't catch that because it might not pull enough total amperage to overload the main circuit.
Precisely. The standard breaker only looks at the total volume of power. But the AFCI has an embedded microprocessor.
Oh, wow.
It acts like an audio engineer analyzing the electrical waveform. When electricity arcs, the waveform gets chaotic and jagged.
So if the main panel is the head of security for the building, these AFCI outlets are like tiny, localized bouncers standing right at the door of every single room.
That is exactly what they are. They detect that erratic static and shut the circuit down before the arc can start a fire.
Stopping a hazard before it travels down the hallway.
A lot of homeowners overlook them, but proper professional installation of these devices is crucial. It's a small investment for massive peace of mind.
Right, this isn't a casual Saturday DIY project.
No, definitely not. Because they rely on such sensitive microprocessors, if you wire them wrong, they will constantly nuisance trip. or just fail to offer any protection.
Which brings us to the most practical challenge for the listener: hiring a pro to actually do the fix.
The guide offers some great tips here. You need to evaluate their training, ensure they are licensed and insured.
Right, because credentials ensure code compliance. And look for positive reviews. But every guide says find someone who gives a clear, honest assessment.
Sure, they all say that.
So what does this all mean for the listener trying to hire someone tomorrow? How do you distinguish between an honest assessment and someone just trying to upsell you on gadgets?
This raises an important question about how to verify their technical expertise. You demand objective metrics. Specifically, do they perform a formal load calculation?
A load calculation?
Yes. An honest contractor doesn't just eyeball your panel and guess you need 200 amps. They calculate the square footage, factor in your appliances, your HVAC, future EV charging.
They actually do the math.
Exactly. They produce a mathematical document proving why you need a specific capacity.
So if a guy shines a flashlight at the box for 30 seconds and tries to push an expensive upgrade, you show him the door.
Absolutely. No high-pressure sales.
Okay.
And the second indicator is their stance on permits. If they try to convince you permits are just red tape, walk away.
Because skipping the permit is a massive transfer of liability to you, the homeowner, right?
It is. If they refuse to pull a permit, they're avoiding oversight.
Mm-hmm.
And if that faulty wiring causes a fire later, your insurance will likely deny the claim.
Wow. Okay, so insist on the load calculation and the permit. Now let's talk finances, because the ROI data in this guide is genuinely surprising.
It really reframes the whole conversation.
Most people view a panel upgrade as a sunk cost, like replacing a sewer line. But the guide notes a potential ROI of up to 70% in increased home value.
And that makes perfect sense when you look at modern buyers. They're terrified of what we call infrastructure debt.
Infrastructure debt.
Yeah. Imagine walking into a beautifully staged home, but seeing an old 100-amp panel in the basement.
Oh, yeah. They instantly know they can't install their EV charger or an induction stove.
Right. They mentally subtract $10,000 from their offer because of the headache and the fire risk. But a new panel signals the property is technologically resilient.
It's a peace of mind premium. But it's not just home value either. The guide talks about ecosystem savings.
Yes, the synergy of the home.
Remember those HERS-rated homeowners? They save an average of $1,100 annually.
And the upgraded panel is the gateway that makes those savings possible.
Right. Integrating smart lighting yields a 50 to 75% ROI. LED bulbs use 75% less energy and last 25 times longer.
But none of that works optimally if your panel is choking on its own resistance. Upgrading the panel removes the bottleneck.
So to summarize for you, the listener, here is your playbook. Watch out for flickering lights and tripping breakers.
Yes, listen to your house.
Check if your panel is over 20 years old or has any burning smells or corrosion. Make sure your outlets have AFCI and GFCI protection.
Secure that perimeter.
And strictly vet your contractors. Demand the math, insist on permits, and avoid high-pressure sales.
Doing that shifts you from a reactive homeowner to a proactive one.
Which leaves us with one final kind of provocative thought to mull over. We've talked all about future-proofing today.
Right.
If our homes are already struggling to handle EV chargers and smart tech today, what happens in a decade?
That's the big question.
Because soon, our homes are expected to not just consume power, but actually store and manage it for the wider grid. Like drawing power from your EV to run your AC during peak hours.
The panel is evolving into a decentralized microgrid manager.
Exactly.
Like,
So is your electrical panel just a simple safety box? Or is it quickly becoming the most critical piece of infrastructure you will ever own? Definitely something to think about.
absolutely.
Well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.
That's it for today's Meet Sean. If this helped, follow the show and share this episode with one person who needs it. See you next time.